Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 13 of Design Lab. I am Cynix, and in case you're unfamiliar, Design Lab is my viewer participation series that revolves around the creation of a unique design idea for graphical purposes. So, anyway, this is part one of a three-part little episode, and part one just deals with the establishing of the theme for this episode. So, the theme is going to be an environmental one, and it is urban waterfall. So, for people that aren't overly familiar with English, because I know we have a lot of people from around the world, that just means that it's going to be a waterfall in a setting with buildings and, well, basically a downtown city setting. So, think of a mixture of waterfall and, obviously a downtown setting. So this can be an exterior view, it can be an interior thing, it can be a waterfall that's happening, say inside a skyscraper, it can be outside a skyscraper. It doesn't have to be related to a skyscraper. It's basically just anything you can think of that might fit that topic of urban waterfall. So you're definitely encouraged to be creative and maybe think about the reasons why there might be a waterfall in this urban setting. Maybe it's some post-apocalyptic thing. Maybe there's been some earthquake and who knows what. Or it could just be an aesthetic thing in the future where there's waterfalls, coming out of buildings just for, I don't know, the sake of interesting art. But anyway, I think what these are all going to have in common is that they're going to need to have perspective because obviously you're going to be dealing with buildings, unlike the previous environmental design lab, which was very naturey. This one is all about urban settings and waterfalls. Wait, the waterfall part doesn't really affect this. But it's all about urban settings, so it's going to be a lot of buildings. So you do want to make sure that everything is in perspective. Because remember, in these environmental design labs, your composition and your presentation of your thumbnail, your look is going to be very important, more so than any of the other kind of types of design lab. This one is really going to require you to have a nice presentation of a composition and idea. Okay, so anyway, we're going to be using conceptart.org once again for our kind of submission thread to be able to look at everyone's work. And the same thing we've been doing in any of the previous design labs. So there will be a link in the description below the video that goes to the thread where you can post your work. And in case you can't get that to work for whatever reason, there will also be a backup strategy in the description as well. But anyway, I don't know why I drew a little building vomiting, but I guess that kind of fits the motif of urban waterfall. Actually, in a recent kind of whatever Sony's PS4 announcement, they did have that little video of Killzone, I think it was, and they had this giant building with like water just pouring out the top of it, which was interesting, kind of fits the idea. And I've actually had this idea for a while. It was one of the earliest ones I wrote down in my little giant list, a little giant list. There's a interesting way of phrasing it, and my little giant list of ideas for videos. But anyway, you can see here I jumped over to my drawing board just so I could kind of come up with some ideas real fast. Although I didn't really come up with ideas. I just wanted to kind of demonstrate real fast, the methods you might want to use for coming up with your thumbnails. So normally when I'm doing thumbnails, I like to block in my kind of outside just to kind of get me in that very compositional state of mind. It helps to have those black lines around everything. It makes it feel like you're viewing things through a screen or some kind of other view finding, device. I guess like a television or something. Oh, I don't know what I'm saying about it. But yeah, it just helps to get you in a compositional state of mind. And you're probably going to want to make sure you establish a horizon line. It doesn't have to be visible. It can be below camera or above camera or anywhere else. But it's important to have it in mind right when you start out. So when you're doing your thumbnails, you might actually start them by kind of coming up with different ideas as to where your horizon line might be, as to where your vanishing points might be. Obviously, you're going to need to think about if you want to do a 1 point perspective with one vanishing point, or if you want to do multiple vanishing points off on the horizon lines, and that would be a 2 point perspective, or more. You can throw in all kinds of other complicated stuff as well. And if you want to learn more about drawing environments and doing perspective stuff, I recommend you visit Feng Zhu's YouTube channel, because he is a master of environments, more so than I will be, or more so than I care to try to be. So FZD School is his YouTube channel, and I recommend you check it out because, once again, he is masterful at environments. So there's probably a lot of tips you can find out. But anyway, yes, it's good to kind of picture things in your head a little bit. And I would say that reference is a good idea in this case. Just coming up with thumbnails. You can even kind of Photoshop together your ideas, because once again, these are thumbnails. These are just kind of establishing your compositional ideas. Maybe you're just establishing your kind of loose brainstorming type things. So you don't have to worry about your I don't know what I would say, your artistic integrity. You can just kind of use whatever method you want to kind of establish ideas, because that's what this is all about, just establishing ideas. And then later on, I'll have to worry about artistic integrity. But for now, let's just think about ideas and how we want to represent stuff, because if you have a good idea, that's all you need to kind of establish something better. So anyway, you can use references if you want. You can use all these perspective kind of guidelines if you want. Or, like I said, not that any of it matters. You can do things however you want. You don't have to use perspective lines if you don't want to. You can just kind of fill in shapes in a box and see if any ideas come to mind. It is art. There are methods for doing it well. I mean, there are consistent methods for doing it consistently. That was not the best way of putting it. But, there are also methods that might not be as consistent, but you might get good results with things no matter what you do. So, anyway, I think that's about it. You can consider using things like SketchUp as well, but I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys come up with, because I'm sure it will be great.